friends. Oracle Alley here, formerly known as the Grove Witch. So some of my friends, or some of you that have been following for a while, know that I had a little bit of a reinvention. I don't know, it was just time to transform a little bit. Every once in a while we need to just kind of shed some skins, become a new version. I've been thinking about it for a long time, about a name that really embodies everything that resonates with me and that I practice or am passionate about, things like that. And the word oracle can mean everything from priestess to empress to medium, shaman, seer, messenger of the gods, can walk between worlds, can talk to spirits, can bring messages, just all those kind of things. And it's more of a like a easier, all-encompassing name, I feel like. I don't know, when I said it, it just kind of resonated. And of course, a lot of I work with Apollo, who I feel has led me to be an oracle. So again, I really wanted to use that term, and when I had started researching that term, it just really resonated. And all the things I feel, priestess, witch, tarot reader, medium, even life coach, messenger speaker, I feel like all these things fit into that, so it just kind of goes. So I'm trying to change it across platforms here, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and everywhere. But this is just another car video series. I think I'm gonna have to do it in parts, like 2, 3, 4, because I think my daughter, I'm sitting in the grocery parking lot again, and she may be calling me with questions about the groceries. So if I get interrupted, this may be in a few parts. And I also have a car right in front of me staring at me at the moment, so I didn't know when I picked this spot there was somebody in that car. So too bad. I feel like I could kill 2 birds in 1 stone. And I work the regular 9 to 5. I'm battling with chronic illnesses, things like that, and I'm like, how am I ever going to keep sharing my story and the messages I want to share when I don't have 2 minutes in a day. By the time I'm done working 8 to 5, and then if it's in office, commute home, dinner, shower, and all that, I have to go to bed. I have to go to bed, or I'll be so sick that I can't get out of bed the next day. So I was like, every time, if she's going to do the grocery shopping, because I cannot, while I'm sitting here in the car for an hour, that's my chance. There's my opportunity to make the videos I want to make. So planned or not, that's what I'm going to do. So I've been talking with some friends, and I've been watching videos a lot on NDEs lately, near-death experiences. And that I feel like correlates to spiritual awakenings or dark nights of the soul. It's just something I've been thinking about. So I wanted to make this video for any that are like, am I on the spiritual awakening path? Have I even started it? Have I had a dark night of the soul? Where am I at in my journey? Is it just like a one and done type of thing? Is it, just maybe by sharing my experiences, that it could help somebody else, especially when you're starting to feel discouraged because it's taking way longer than you think, or you think you've progressed to a certain point, and then you're like, oh, maybe I don't know anything. And so trust me, friends, the spiritual awakening journey is not like, oh, all of a sudden I had a Kundalini awakening and I'm Buddha and I just know everything and I can, levitate, float off the ground now, and everything else. It's not. And it's the same with like our physical healing journey or emotional healing journey. It's not just like, oh, I know to take this herb and I'm going to take it, I'm going to be better. Or I'm going to go to this counseling session one time and I'm going to be better. So I like to relate them, because I think the awakening journey and then healing journeys, again, are very synonymous, or they both kind of happen in the same way. It's like layer after layer after layer. It's kind of up and down and all around and all over the place. It's not just a straightforward line and one and done and everything's okay now. And I've heard a lot of people say that spiritual awakenings can happen in 2, 3, 4 times. You can have 2, 3, 4 awakenings, or 2, 3, 4 dark nights of the soul. And when I was watching these NDEs, because I love these types of videos, they say that a lot of these people were in real dark places in their lives, or battling with addiction or self-loathing or thoughts of unaliving yourself, or things like this. And it took the NDE and experiencing the other side and what they saw or whatever to wake up, to have their spiritual awakening. But I feel like for those of us that did not contract to have an NDE, that's what a dark night of a soul can be, type of thing. And I'll explain why. Because for a while I was afraid, especially with these chronic health issues. I mean, I've been to the ER 8-9 times in the past 3 years now. Like, you can't imagine how damn tired I am of going to the damn ER. So, because I thought that I might be having a heart attack or whatever because of these issues. And I was like, can I please not have an NDE to be able to I would prefer to not have one, you know, if possible. But and then my guides and my higher self like kind of started talking to me, and they were like, think about the times when you went through the dark night of the soul, where that a few times could have very well been an NDE for you, and you did start to see the other side and talk to your guides, and you know, this awakened your psychic abilities and mediumship abilities and things like that. They were like, it's kind of the same thing, it just depends on what you chose, what your soul chose. So that's why I want to like share my story in pieces here. You know, my whole life has been an absolute shitstorm, and we're not going to get to all 40 some years of it in one shot, but I'll tell you the 4 dark nights of the soul, or the 4 spiritual awakenings that I believe that I have had. Number 1 was my first love in high school. There was one horrible person before him that I technically had my first, you know, sexual relations with, but that was very fleeting. That was nothing. The one right after him, 15 and a half years old, my first love for 2 years, that was a big deal. I don't know about y'all, but back, you know, in high school, being with somebody for 2 years was like a big deal. He even put a pre-engagement ring on my finger. Woo. You know, and unbeknownst to me at the time, he was a narcissist, and he was going to be the first one to awaken me to the fact that so were my parents, and so were some of the church members, and that I was kind of in this cycle of codependent narcissistic trauma bonds. And but I had no idea what any of that was at the time. But he went to church, as my parents did, and of course God was, you know, the law, and it didn't matter all the evil things my mother and stepfather did, or the pastors and youth pastors at my church did, and all the hypocrisy and the disgusting, you know, all that, we just you know, whatever. Nobody was ever going to admit to what they were and what they were doing. It was just do what God says and follow the Bible, and okay, yeah, I won't get into all that. So the whole time we were together, though, I found out piece by piece by piece he was fooling around with many other girls, some from the church youth group, some from high school, just. And so right at the end of high school, well, he was 1 year ahead of me, so it wasn't quite the end of my high school, but when he graduated, he married one of the girls in the youth group. They were 18 and 19 years old, enlisted in the army together, and got married. And every church function they came back to visit, whatever, he threw it in my face. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die. He tried to blame it on me, saying, oh, we were just kids, and, you know, how can you expect somebody to just only be with one person when you're just in high school? And the inconsistencies, the gaslighting, the love bombing, which I know what it all is now, but I didn't then. And I was like, you MFer, I sure did know I only wanted you. Like, I wasn't messing around with a million other people. Like, and then it got worse as time went on, and I went through college and whatever. Through their whole marriage, they abused each other, cheated on each other. Now I'm like, thank Jesus I didn't get married to him, and that did happen. But he kept trying to come back to me. Like, every year he'd hunt down my parents, he'd find my phone number. This is before we had social media and smartphones, mind you. He would literally have to call my parents' house and find the college I was at and find me to try to talk to me, to try to see me. But when we first broke up, I thought I was gonna die. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I would cry so hard, I couldn't breathe. I was like, why does nobody love me? My parents don't love me, he doesn't love me, I want to unalive myself, I'm not worth anything, I'm a piece of shit, I keep attracting these a-holes, I don't want to be alone, you know what I mean? I literally, and that was the first awakening, because that's when I first started to question, something's wrong here. You don't say you love somebody and treat somebody like this. My parents are saying they love me, but a million things that they're doing, emotional abuse and narcissistic abuse and whatever, the words and the actions aren't matching up. You're supposed to love God and the church leaders are supposed to love you, but they're doing these horrific things. And this is when I first started to question, why do I believe what I believe? Am I supposed to believe that just because my parents say? Is the Bible really actually real? Like, something's wrong. There's just, something's wrong here. So then, a few different colleges, blah, 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 skip forward a little bit. And I met my daughter's father. I actually knew him in high school, but we ran into each other. And when we started dating, he was a practicing witch, and his mother read A Course in Miracles. So they were very open-minded, and that was my first exposure to, like, A Course in Miracles, Celestine Prophecy, The Spiritual Warrior, is that what it's called, by Dan Millman or something like that? Shit, I can't remember. But, tarot cards, blah, blah, blah. And of course my mother, it's all evil and everything's evil. But that was my first exposure to really try to figure out, like, what did I believe in, and tearing down, like, the beliefs and the things that were ingrained to me as I was growing up. So, and then at 21, right after my 21st birthday, actually, in the summer, I found out I was pregnant. It was a oops, but I was happy. I thought he was going to be, I'll straighten up and I'll stop partying and I'll get a job because we're going to be a happy family and we're going to have children. And yeah, okay, as you can imagine, anything but cheated. He was cheating on me while I was pregnant, I found out. Continued to do so for the next 9 years, on and off, as I kept trying to break up with him, but I was still stuck in that codependent, narcissistic, that trauma. I kept going back. Anyways, hopefully I don't get too emotional at this part. The second one was a real doozy. To make a long story short, of course he was into raving, partying, drugs, got me into all that. And my mother, because she was infuriated at me that I chose him, she couldn't see the low self-esteem or the trauma, she didn't reach out to help me, she started building a case against me to take my child away from me. And she played very dirty, and we found some things out way later on after she passed, and I don't want to speak ill of the deceased, and I have come to terms with a lot of things, whatever. But at the time, my child was barely just before, she was about 2 years old, and she played real dirty and got these people to coach her and falsify, evidence. I'm not saying her father was perfect, because he wasn't. He was an asshat. But, I always made sure that she was fed and clothed and she was taken care of, and CPS, came to my house multiple times, clear a report, and even we found out many years later, came after her for making false reports, and she still was able to find people to pay off and connive the child family court here in the state we live in. And because I was trying to go to school and work a job that I think was about, like, paying fucking $6 an hour at that time, I had WIC and welfare and food stamps while I was pregnant with her and after as a child. I wasn't exactly living large, but I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. She got her, and because I had a public defender, and the public defender told me, just do what they say. Okay, that's helpful, great. So she took her, and you talk about guilt, shame, depression, wanting to unalive yourself, wanting to unalive them, the terror and the trauma, and that was living hell. The mother that is supposed to nurture you and love you, her child takes your only child from you in such an underhanded, just shady, despicable way. And I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just bearing all the skeletons out of my closet right now, that my daughter's father and I didn't have conversations about, could we unalive them? Is there a way that we could get away with it? Like, we're watching all these CSI crime videos or whatever. Is there a way we could leave the country and they would never find us? Of course, these conversations were being had. And every time I had her for a couple days, and my mother had her for the rest of the days. Every time she would pick her up to take her, she would scream. My daughter would scream when she would take her out of my arms and cry because she didn't want to leave me. You just can't imagine. I mean, maybe some of you can. That's why I'm putting these videos out there. The pain of your child being ripped out of your arms, and everyone around you, you know, she's telling everyone in our neighborhood, in the church family, what a horrible, despicable, loser person I am to be with this loser man, and we're doing drugs, and we're doing this and that, and just painting the worst picture you can imagine. And I just wanted to end it all. And so one weekend when she had her, we were with a mutual friend where we were living at the time. Her father had left to go be with another woman that weekend, whatever, and I was with a mutual friend who also battled with depression. And I hope I don't get, whatever, I can say these things, trigger warning for these subjects that I'm talking about. I probably should have said that at the beginning, right? Okay, trigger warning. I was on Paxil for depression, which was making me worse and making me more wanting to unalive myself, which that's a whole nother story. That was before all the information came out about how awful these antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs can be, and there were no warnings about it. And I kept telling my doctor I didn't feel right, and they kept upping my dosage, and I kept feeling worse and gaining weight and wanting to unalive myself, and they kept upping the damn dosage. That's another story for another day. So we had some Paxil in the house, we had some Ritalin from this other kid, we had some X, I believe, laying around, and there was one other thing that we had, and he and I just ate it all. We just ate whatever was there, and I was pretty sure that was going to be it. That could have been an NDE for me, and I still to this day am surprised that it wasn't, because 2 days went by. It was very strange. It was like a Tuesday afternoon we did this, and Thursday evening her stupid father came back to the house, and basically the new girl he was with got tired of him, saw through his bullshit, kicked him out. So he came back, and he was like, you know, what are you guys doing? And I said, it's Tuesday or whatever. And he said, what the fuck are you talking about? It's Thursday night. I said, what the fuck do you mean it's Thursday night? It's Tuesday. We basically were unconscious or slept. I don't even know if we went to the bathroom, and neither of us know. We literally have no memory, no recollection of how we got from Tuesday afternoon to Thursday evening when he came knocking on the door. I still to this day have no idea how we didn't end up in the hospital or passing, or I don't know. But that was my second awakening, where I was like, I almost just left my child. Like, I still need to be in her life. I want to choose to fight. I have to choose to fight. And even if it means doing what these bastards say I have to do, and all of these people at church and my own family members looking at me like I was this piece of shit and judging me, I have to stay here for my daughter. So I did. And I went to 28-day rehab, and then I went to the AA and the NA meetings afterwards. Even though when I got there, I basically told them that sometimes, you know, I did stuff at raves, but mostly I just smoked pot, and a lot of them were like, you're not addicted to like heroin? Or I was like, no, so I did what they, you know, I went to rehab. I had the propensity towards addiction anyways because of my trauma, so I am very, very glad that I went. I made great friends, great connections. I started studying about, you know, psychology and CPTSD and all those things at that time. Those NA meetings, they were wonderful. And I went to parenting classes like they wanted, and I went to counseling, and then I went to some like get back in the workforce program or some shit, I don't know. And then I was working, and I was going to school, and I worked my way up from shitty job to better job to better job while going to school at night online for the next 9 years, and continuing my 2 days that I had with her and my visitation, and being a solid in her life, even if it meant hanging out with my mother and stepfather, who I despised with all of my being. I stayed myself, and I played with my daughter, and I loved her unconditionally, and I stayed the presence in her life that my parents were not for me, because somehow I knew she would see, and they do, children know. She knew by 10 years old something was off with my parents and what they were saying about me and what she was experiencing with me. And she, we have a beautiful relationship now. You know, I missed a lot of her younger years, but from 15 on, I've been with her and we've been best friends because she saw the real me, and I didn't hide anything from her or manipulate her, or my love was not conditional, it was unconditional. And I chose to be the cycle breaker, the curse breaker, and to do what I had to do to stay in her life and to break this cycle. Whew, so, okay, we're gonna have to make a part 2 video, I believe. So that was number 2 awakening, when I knew that I had to choose to fight for her and be in her life and to be my authentic self and to love her unconditionally and to just be that solid, supportive foundation in her life that a parent is supposed to be, even if I had to fight through hell to do it. So, okay, stay tuned for part 2, my friends.